Wow. Incredible. Incredible. And that is why we love football. Welcome back to EPFC. Today I am going to be discussing the Chelsea vs Arsenal game, which ended up incredibly in a 2-2 draw. I don't know what to say. I mean, as soon as David Luiz got sent off, I thought it was game over. And the commentators were mentioning something about the 6-0, and I thought not necessarily it was going to be 6-0, but it was going to be something like that, because the way that we played in the first half I thought was terrible, and I thought we got a lot better after the red card. We started off flat. We weren't trying to dictate the games as we've tried to do under Arteta. The passing was sloppy. Hector Bellerin, I thought, was giving away so many passes in the first half. Who else was I going to say? Hector Bellerin was one. Mustafi was the other one. Mustafi was giving away passes in the first half, and I mean, you see that error from Mustafi that led to the red card, ultimately the Jorginho penalty, and you just wonder why he's still at the club. You just wonder why, after all this time of poor performances and after Wenger leaving and whatnot, and you just wonder how we have not been able to get rid of this guy, because that mistake pretty much summarises his career at Arsenal. But I don't want to get carried away with him. The first half, he gets sent off, and we sort of hold on for the rest of the first half. But the second half, same thing. I thought we defended a lot better as a unit in the second half. Granit Xhaka ultimately dropped to centre back. Ozil and Torreira played as centre midfielders, and as a unit, I think once Ozil went off, we started defending better. And I'm not going to get too much into Ozil, because at the end of the day we got a good result, and I'm in much better spirits than I was in the first half. But his performance was dreadful. Honestly, it was dreadful. He offered nothing going forward before the 10 men. When we did have 10 men, every single fan knows that Ozil will offer nothing. And the amount of times Kovacic got left with space when he was still on the pitch, and Ozil just didn't track the run. And ultimately, it looked like in the first half that Martinelli, at first the commentator said it was Pepe, was going to come off for, who was it? Pepe was going to come off for Guendouzi, I think it might have been. Or Rob Holding, I think they may have been thinking of at the time. And then it looked like Martinelli. Neither of them were good decisions, and thank the Lord Arteta held off on that sub in the first half, which I thought was a really smart move at the end of the day. I thought making that sub would have been the wrong one unless it was Ozil. And then finally he saw it. Every other fan saw and realised that Ozil was a passenger and he can't do anything defensively. And as soon as we went off the field, Guendouzi offered more energy and we looked more compact, and ultimately that's where the goal came. Counter-attack, couple of slips, Kante in particular, Martinelli. I absolutely lost my marbles when Martinelli scored that goal. Very composed. You knew once Kante slipped and he was on. Honestly, I knew he was going to score. The guy thrives in those positions, and what a fantastic finish by Martinelli, and fantastic for his confidence as well. The kid deserves it. The amount of work rate that he put in today was nothing short of exceptional. In the last 10-15 minutes of the game, or when he was on, he was just constantly tracking back for doing his defensive duties. I thought that left-hand side we were absolutely dangerous. He had Saka, who I thought had an excellent game again, and Martinelli, who of course had an excellent game. So that goal goes in, and then we start really showing some fight, and this is what I'm positive about, and this is what Arteta has brought in some respects to Arsenal. We may have some failings in other areas, and I'm not... This papers over the cracks in some respects in those areas, but he's brought a lot of fight to this team, and the way that we were going in for tackles, the way that we were defending as a unit, I thought Granit Xhaka played excellent at centre-back. He was excellent. I thought Mustafi, after the error, was very good as well, and I was cursing Mustafi after he made that error. I was really cursing him, and it just made me wonder how this guy still is anywhere near the first team. But the way that he made a couple of crucial tackles, made a couple of crucial blocks, and ultimately as a unit we defended very well. And another player in Lucas Torreira, who again puts another 8 out of 10 performance in my mind. He doesn't really put a foot wrong, Lucas Torreira, when he's playing like we know he can play, like he did at the beginning of last season and like he is right now. He doesn't really put a foot wrong. He can put in, when he's in this form, some 8 out of 10s consistently. And that is why we need him in this team, and that is why defensively, as a unit, we look a lot better, because Torreira is playing in his preferred position as defensive midfielder. Xhaka slots into centre back. A lot of people criticise Xhaka, myself included, but the footballing brain that guy has, you can tell, is very good, because he's able to slot into these positions and not look overly out of place. We offered a lot of threat down the left-hand side, as I said. I thought Pepe worked hard. I don't think necessarily things went his way today. Lacazette, obviously, goal-scoring wise, he's lost all confidence, but the amount of work rate that he was putting in today was, again, very, very good. I know that's the minimum we should be expecting, but Lacazette was doing a lot of his defensive duties. He was backing into the defender, the players, sort of do a target man sort of role, and he does that very well for someone of his size. And then, obviously Chelsea got that goal with, I think it was, I don't even remember now. That feels like a blur, that game. I think it was probably Batshuayi. And I thought that was probably Mustafi's man again. It was a late run, but he was his man. He sort of just let him, gave him that extra yard of space, and ultimately he put it in. And then someone that I widely criticised for being in the starting lineup over Maitland-Niles was Hector Bellerin. And I thought Hector Bellerin in the first half was terrible, actually. I thought he was giving away the ball so many times. As I've discussed in previous videos, he is a bit of a one-trick pony in respect that, well, you would have thought up until this game he's only right-footed, because he doesn't really try to do anything with his left foot. And I noticed that because he's not really able to beat a man, we were getting held back in our own half a lot in the first half and at times in the second half. But, mate, that finish, I couldn't believe it went in. I could not. When it scored, I barely even reacted. I was like, is that goal? Because everyone just sort of stopped. But what a finish from Bellerin. And, it's a difficult game for him to come into. First half he struggled, and I think he would have known that he was struggling in the first half. But the way he bounced back in the second half, he was timing his tackles very well. His anticipation of when Chelsea were looking to whip the ball in was excellent as well. And ultimately, he bounced back. And that is the theme of this side today, is our bounce back ability, because you can see that there is a togetherness within this squad. You can see that with the way that we reacted when scoring both those goals. That was pretty much today a rescue mission, a massive, massive rescue mission. And I'll take that point any day. I would have taken a point at the beginning of the game, and especially with how things went with the red card for David Luiz, I would take a point any day. And I'm really starting to get some positivity from the way we are defending. Yeah, we conceded 2 goals today. One was pretty much a Mustafi error, a penalty. The other one, okay, maybe we switched off. But as a unit, the amount of pressure they were putting on us, particularly in the midfield and out wide, we were handling it very, very well. We were keeping our heads more than I've seen us keep our heads before. And yeah, 2-2 at the end of the day, I'll take that. I thought this was going to be a very different video. In the first half, I thought I was going to be raging, because I was raging. There was performances of Mesut Ozil I was really disappointed with. There was performances of Bellerin I was really disappointed in. But the way that we bounced back was excellent. I thought Guendouzi off the bench was very good. He offered energy in the midfield that we desperately needed. I'm glad Arteta saw what pretty much all fans were saying, with Ozil offering absolutely zilch defensively. And you know what? I think we're a better team without him on the field. But I'll do that another video about that later in the week, because I will be doing a video about Mesut Ozil's performance this season. I'll go into player ratings. Bernd Leno, for me, he gets a 7. Not had the great... He didn't make too many saves, but he made about 2 or 3. One at the end of a header. And he made a couple of good... He was very good anticipation-wise when the ball was getting whipped in. And he was obviously reading the ball, and he was able to collect low crosses before they got sort of to Tammy Abraham in the middle. He did that very well. His distribution was fine. He'll get a 7 for me. Hector Bellerin. Now, the first half, it would have been a 2. And if he kept playing like that, it would have been a 2. But I'm going to have to raise his rating for not just his goal. I don't want to... Obviously, it was a very good goal and it was a clutch moment, but I don't want to just discuss that with him. It's the way that he bounced back in the second half defensively. You could see he was gassed, but he just kept going. And again, timed his tackles to perfection. His defensive positioning was a lot better than I've seen from Bellerin in the past. For me, I still think Maitland-Niles is our best right back. But Bellerin today, I think from a 2, went to about a 6.5. And a lot of people will think that's harsh, but apart from the goal, he was decent but not amazing. But for me, he gets that 6.5 because of the way he bounced back in the second half. David Luiz, I mean, I'm not going to rate David Luiz because he wasn't on the field long enough. I mean, he sort of had to do what he did in respects to the tackle that he made on Tammy Abraham. So I'm not going to rate him. I'll go to Mustafi. Mustafi, for me, would have got a 1 in the first half. Would have got a 1, fam. But fair play, he bounced back, but I'm still not going to give him the highest rating. I'm going to give him a 5 because that back pass was disgraceful. It was absolutely disgraceful, and who knows what game it could have been if we had 11 men. Maybe I think we played better with 10 men, but, you know, obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing. So for me, he'll get a 5. Who else? I'm going to give Saka an 8. I thought Saka was man of the match alongside Xhaka and maybe Torreira. He's going to get an 8. He was bombing down the left-hand side. He was winning so many tackles. His tenacity was exceptional. For me, Saka is going to get an 8. Xhaka, another 8. The way that he stepped up as a centre-back in that performance was excellent. Didn't look out of place playing that role. Not at all. He did not look out of place. You know, his positioning was very good. He sort of had a calming aura about him, and the assuredness he had at centre-back was very good. His positioning, as I said, he's going to get an 8 for me, and playing out of position and having that sort of character, fair play to Xhaka, because the way he's bounced back in the last few weeks has been brilliant. Torreira at 8, as I said, he's another one that gets an 8. I think Torreira, again, another 8 out of 10 performance, was winning tackles, his positioning was good. He didn't allow Chelsea to really burst through the middle. They were forced out wide a lot, and I think a lot of that was down to Torreira's positioning and the threat that they knew Torreira had in regards to interceptions and pressuring the midfielders and the attackers. So for me, he gets an 8. Pepe, I thought, was quiet. I thought Pepe will probably get a 5. Still think he needs to find that level of consistency because he's not really finding it yet on a regular basis. He did beat a few players, but he's not finding himself in those goal-scoring positions that I'm hoping he would find. A lot of it, for me, I think is down to the way we're playing. He looked a lot stronger than we counter-attacked in the second half, and that is down to how he's used to playing at Lille. I think he is best fit when playing a counter-attacking system. So for me, Pepe gets an 8. Oh, no, not an 8. He gets a 5. Hopefully, as we see more of him soon. Ozil, 4. Maybe even a 3. Offered, actually, 4 is way too positive to him. For me, it's a 3. Did nothing going forward. Offered absolutely nothing defensively. Pretty much, you saw what he's like in those sort of situations. He's frail. He doesn't offer any fight because the way that they were overrunning us in the midfield was a disgrace with Ozil at centre mid. We know now that he can never play any role apart from Cam, but he doesn't create any chances. So many times, Ozil could have played a through ball, but whether he's low on confidence or he's just forgotten how to play those through balls because we haven't seen it for so long. I don't know what it is about him, but there was so many times he could have played it out wide, a killer through pass, but if he's not doing it, what's he doing in the starting lineup? Because that is what he's supposed to be there for, and he's not offering that. Ozil, for me, I think I gave him a 4, but I'll give him a 3 because he did absolutely nothing, and this is someone we really need to look into his performances because we can't sign players because this guy is on very high wages. For me, I'm going to run through this very quick because I got to go. Ozil gets a 3, Pepe got a 5. Martinelli, for me, I thought he was very good in the second half. I think the first half that he struggled a little bit with getting the ball. But again, through that counter-attacking system, He looked a lot stronger. Became probably in the first half he was about a 5, but the second half he was about an 8.5, 9. So I think all up, I'm really going to give him a 7.5. I think Martinelli offers that pace. He's so direct with his running, as I've explained in the video I did about Martinelli last week. And his composure for that age, for someone that's come from the 3rd division of Brazil to play in a massive game like against Chelsea, nothing short of exceptional. Fantastic finish. The way he was doing his defensive duties, I think, yeah, the only reason why he doesn't get an 8 is because I think this first half is a bit quiet. So for me, he gets a 7.5. Lacazette wasn't a great performance from him again. I'm probably going to give him a 5. He did work hard. He did his defensive duties very, very well. I can't fault him for that because he's a striker and he's doing his defensive duties. Aubameyang doesn't do as much work defensively as Lacazette does. So for me, he gets a 5, but he didn't really get himself in those goal-scoring positions. And for me, there was no threat whatsoever from him in terms of scoring. Guendouzi off the bench, I thought was a 6. Didn't do anything too flash, but he offered energy in the midfield, and his positioning was quite good, and he offered a lot more in that respect because positioning is one of his weakest points. And he wasn't as rash. He came on, he knew he had a role, and I think that competition for midfield has probably allowed him to get a new perspective of his game because he's not a guaranteed starter anymore as he was under Emery, and he wants to fight for his place in the starting lineup. So, yeah, I think Guendouzi was very good. He's going to get a 6, though, because he didn't do anything too flash, but he did what he had to do. Off the bench, Holding came on and did all right. I'm not going to rate him. He wasn't on long enough. I don't know if I've missed anyone. I don't think I have. And Willock came on right at the end. But all up, a fantastic character is the theme of the video today. I thought in the first half we were as poor as I've seen us under Arteta. Some people may think that's harsh, but I think that's the reality. But it's the character that no way we would have had under Emery that we actually saw under Arteta, and the way that we were fighting hard and we ultimately counterattacked, had a plan in mind, countered them, and we looked a lot better in respects to off-the-ball defensive duties. So that's all I have time for today, guys. I just wanted to do a raw reaction to the Chelsea-Arsenal video. Plenty of positives, but still a lot to work on. Look forward to talking to you guys soon.